Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Alvin of Alvin Inc. and I bet you're probably wondering how to make a sunken waterfall. Well, in today's Sunken Waterfall speed build video, I'm going to show you just that. Sunken waterfalls are a great way to incorporate height and water and an abundance of nature into your island design. So pull up a chair, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Grab yourself a warm cup of tea and follow me as I show you how to make your very own sunken waterfall. Let's go. Alright, so let's just get right into it. I want a waterfall that pours into this river. That's why I'm starting the build over here. All I'm doing right now is outlining the inner part of our sunken waterfall basin by building up the second layer. I'm planting trees on the bottom level. I'm doing this because I can use them to ensure that I get the proper spacing I want for the size of the fall's basin, and they'll act as good guides for when I want to add water in the basin. Here I'm carving out the water around the trees. I'll use the water to help inform where the waterfalls will go later on. I found that it's easier to get the shape and form of the bottom level the way that you want it before you start adding the waterfalls, because if you do the waterfalls first, then they usually end up dictating where or even if you can include trees in the basin, and 9 times out of 10, I would definitely recommend utilizing at least 1 or 2 trees into your sunken waterfall design. I think the trees just make the space look more natural and full, and they add a bit of height into the basin, and without trees or something to add that height, it kind of just looks a little awkward. Now that I've got the water mostly where I want it, I'm building up the rest of the basin walls. I recommend rounding the inner corners because I think that rounded corners just make the space look a bit more organic and natural. Alright, so the basin outline is mostly finished. I always leave one small part of the basin open, just so I can easily access the inside without too much hassle. At this point, I suggest that you start building up the second level of the side of the basin where you want the top of your highest waterfall. So for myself, I want the highest waterfall on the back side of the basin, so I'm building up the second level on the back side. I want to utilize a lot of trees in this build, so that means that I'll need to make the second level pretty large because I'll need to have enough 3x3 square spaces for the trees that I want to include, plus additional space for other decor and plants. At this point, I'm just checking to see where I can put my waterfalls. This is where having added water on the bottom level can come in handy because you can build the waterfalls using the open water spaces on the bottom level as a guide. This will ensure that you don't lose any of the ground on the bottom that you want to use for decor and plants. So before I start building up my third level, I'm outlining how much space I'll need to plant a tree. If you don't want to outline like I am, you could just plant the tree and save yourself that time, but I did not have a tree on me. And now we're starting on the third level. I'm directing the water where I want it to meet with the third level. Adding some curve to the water helps it to look more natural, and it ensures that you can place items and plants where you want. I built up a good chunk of the third level, and now I'm adding my highest waterfall. And I always recommend pulling the start of the waterfall back a little bit. Here, I'm making an extremely tiny little makeshift pond, just so my waterfall doesn't look like it's miraculously pouring over the edge of a cliff, and it actually starts from something. To me, it just looks more realistic. And this is where we're at so far. I'm really liking it. Again, I chose to make my basin really big because I wanted to incorporate a lot of trees and make a little pond on the inside of the basin. You can scale this design to whatever size you want. Now I'm starting on the other sides of the basin. I just go line by line, side after side, and widen or lengthen the second level so I can fit a few more trees and decorative items. I'm building my sunken waterfall on an isolated space that's not connected to anything else on my island, and obviously I would recommend building a sunken waterfall as an add-on to a space that is already designed so it doesn't end up looking like a fortress. But this is also a good basic design for a fortress if that's something you're looking for as well. I'm adding another waterfall on the left side of the basin because there's no such thing as too many waterfalls. And also, when you add waterfalls like this, I recommend rounding the corners because it gives you a little more space if you want to plant trees closer to the water. Here's the view so far of how the basin's turning out. Now, I'm a stickler for symmetry, so I'm adding another waterfall over here. And after I round up the corners, I'm going to head over and start on this little baby waterfall. And now I'm filling in this little space and I'm going to round it off just because I feel like rounded off corners just look more appealing to me. I don't think we have enough water. So I'm adding this big waterfall that pours out into the river below. Our other waterfalls were a little on the smaller side, so we're just beefing things up a bit. And I'm curving this little link of water, just going with the flow, or redirecting the flow. So now I'm just going around and outlining where I want the trees to be. I think it'll help me kind of get a better lay of the land and figure out how I can decorate this place later on. I always suggest planting the trees first before placing any items. I think of the trees as the transition from the broad strokes of painting, like usually the terraforming, and then the intricate and more detailed strokes of painting, usually the flowers and items. Here's a good example of how trees can frame an area. There are certain spaces here that are hidden by the trees. That's why I put the trees here first. Now that the trees have been planted, I'm moving on to the shrubs and flowers. At first, I didn't know which color theme I wanted to go for. I was thinking maybe blacks and purples, but that just didn't seem very wintry to me, so I switched course and settled on white and pink, which is honestly one of my favorite color combinations in the game, especially for winter and spring. And now I have just a little bit of crafting left to do. Alright, and we are now nearing the end. I'm just adding the final touches. I'm a huge advocate for leaning heavily on nature, if that suits the theme of your island. I plant lots of flowers, and I always make sure to incorporate some weeds and some shrubs into my builds as well. I usually don't like to place two flowers right next to each other, so that's really where the weeds and shrubs come in handy. I find that focusing on similar types and colors of plants in a space can fill it up pretty easily, and it weaves a sense of cohesiveness through the build as well. I'll also use lights like garden lanterns and mush lamps, and I pretty much spam wooden stakes. I use almost one set of wooden stakes for every tree. I think it's just these small items splashed across a space purposefully that really bring the design together. Alright, just finishing up the fewest and finest of touches, and then we'll be ready. And here we are! Thank you so much for joining me today for this Sunken Waterfall speed build. I really hope you got some good tips and ideas, and just enjoyed the build. If you did, please remember to leave a like and to subscribe for more amazing content. I'll leave you with a few clips of the finished area, and until next time, bye!